Another reading from the Science of Mind Daily Guides. Just before we start, just a couple of observations from this day. After our Toastmasters meeting, we went out to lunch, and at the end, as we were leaving, I got three completely different opinions about my hair. One, that I should get it cut. Two, that I should leave it the way it is. And another one, that I should get it trimmed in different parts. And they're all from women, and I don't obviously know what to do. So, being astute, I decided that I would follow the advice of my wife, because she's the one I'm with almost 24 hours a day. Well, pretty huge parts of the day anyway. So, for the time being, it would appear it's not getting cut. Maybe these wings will get cut back a bit, but even that was subject to debate. So, I really don't know. I really, truly don't know. What does it have to do with the reading? Nothing, but I just thought I'd tell you what was going on with our day today. Toastmasters, it's a really cool medium to learn how to not just speak in public, but also how to listen. And there's a difference between listening and hearing. Hearing just means that the sounds, or whatever they are, the words, sounds, etc., going in your ears. Listening means that you're actually hearing what's being said, that you're taking note of what's being said. And then there's a step beyond that, which is active listening. Active listening is actually taking part in the conversation, which means that you acknowledge to the other person what's being said. For instance, if they're telling you something, you can say back to them, well, if I understand what you're saying, you repeat it back, is that correct? And then they'll say yes, or they'll correct you one way or the other. So you got hearing, you got listening, you got active listening. Hopefully, our ministers at Creative Life Spiritual Center and our practitioners at Creative Life Spiritual Center are people who actively listen. And I think most of them do, actually. So you'll find that they're not just trying to spew you with words. They're actually interested in what you have to say, which is what a minister should do, right? Because minister means to serve, and you can't serve if you're just not listening to the other person's point of view. Incredibly important. Well, for everybody. Oh, and by the way, piece of trivia. I don't know if I mentioned it the other day. Maybe I did mention it, and I've forgotten that. Speaking of listening, according to these statistics, you're more likely to get better service and stand a better chance of survival if it's a surgeon with women doctors than men doctors. And maybe it is because of the fact, and apparently women doctors spend more time with their patients. And I think they're able to listen more. Although women have a reputation for speaking a lot, I think they also have a reputation for listening more. So there you are, another piece of trivia. Today's reading then, which we're going to read the whole way through, and then we'll come back and we'll potentially analyze it a little bit. Seeing more than has been seen. Seeing more than has been seen. Now, the first quote is from Oliver Wendell Holmes, who lived from the middle of the 19th century to not quite the middle of the 20th century. He had a long life, about 94 years. Therefore, he was contemporaneous with Ernest Holmes, although he was born before him and died before him. But he was also contemporaneous with people like Emerson and so on. And apparently, he was very familiar with and had friendship with the transcendentalists, one of whom, of course, was Emerson. He ended up being a Supreme Court judge, but he also had an interest in writing, and he had an interest, apparently, in metaphysics too. He says, man's mind, once stretched by a new idea, never regains its original dimensions. If you want to make that more gender non-specific, then the mind of a human, once stretched by a new idea, never regains its original dimensions. In other words, learning is good. Oh, I said I wouldn't comment. I'll come back to it. Ernest Holmes, in the Science of Mind textbook on page 417, way into the book, says, to assert our individuality is to rise above the law of averages into that more highly specialized use of the law, which brings freedom rather than bondage, joy in place of grief, and wholeness in place of sickness. And that's a said from the Science of Mind textbook. And this is from Reverend Christian Sorensen. He says, one of the beautiful things about learning something is that no one can take it away from you, though people will try with their facts and positions. You're not here to sanctify the known, but to investigate it and discover what's not known. Small minds criticize what they don't understand, shaming and guilting those who offer what is not in their frame to see or to comprehend. I am going to come back to some of this. Some schools use the fearful motivation of failing grades or your class advancing without you. Some teachers threaten, quote, you'll never amount to anything unless you learn what I tell you, unquote. These schools and their teachers quash students' inquisitive spirits. While instruction is good and necessary, encouragement is what inspires the curious spirit to see more than has been seen. True teachers form the bridge from here to the beyond for their students to traverse. Happily, they willingly collapse the bridges behind their explorers of truth, so the explorers cannot return the way they came. When you're outside of your element, when you cross over the bridge into new territory, you discover yourself. You may stumble now and again, as we all do, but often what you learn prevents falls later in life. Don't allow tough lessons designed to make you better and not bitter to harden your heart. Love, life, and learning. As an ancient Chinese proverb states, quote, learning is a treasure that will follow its owner forever, unquote. So, a lot to understand here. Holmes says, well, let's go back to Oliver Wendell Holmes, who's saying that once your mind has been stretched by a new idea, it never regains its original dimensions. In other words, once you learn something new, you have got a different way of looking at life. And nobody can take that away from you because it's done. And then Holmes goes on to talk about when we assert our individuality, then we rise above the average. I'm trying to think of that expression that some people said. I think it was actually, I heard it from my mentor, Bob Proctor, who said, some people make things happen, some people watch things happen, and some people wonder what on earth did happen. So we ought to be amongst the people who make things happen, or I would say help things happen. There is a common thread throughout humanity. There is a thing called the group human subconscious, which I'm sure most of you know about. And when we learn something new, it goes into that group human subconscious. So it not only raises us, it raises to some extent the whole of humanity. And you'll find that when something new is brought to the surface in human experience, that it spreads like wildfire. For instance, when Roger Bannister, a British physician, broke the 4-minute mile barrier for the first time, people for a long time, scientists, everybody, doctors had said it was impossible to run a mile in faster than 4 minutes because your heart would explode and God knows what else. Well, Bannister did it. But the interesting thing is that very shortly after Bannister did it, lots of other people started doing it because that blockage had gone from the human mind. And that's like when we learn, we put that stuff into the group human subconscious and it changes humanity as a whole. Maybe fractionally, but like in Bannister's case, a whole lot. So you just never know. So not only do we grow personally when we learn something new, we're also helping the human race to grow as well. I'm sure that when fire was first discovered, it spread like wildfire. You know, remember the story of the 100th monkey? I don't know if you remember that. I don't know if it's true or if it's an urban legend. We've repeated it several times. And that's the story about there were monkeys on different islands. And on one particular island, there was I think it was a young female monkey who they used to pick up fruit and eat it, but it was dirty and they had a hard job washing it. And this one young monkey figured out that, oh, if she washed it in the sea, then it will be a lot cleaner and easy to use. And of course, the other monkeys on the island all started doing the same thing because it made the food taste a lot better. And the story goes that without any physical communication between the monkeys on the other islands, they all started doing the same thing. Why? Because it had got into their group subconscious, in this case, the group monkey subconscious, which ultimately goes into universal subjective mind, if you like. So they're saying here, Reverend Christian Sorensen saying, one of the beautiful things about learning something is that no one can take it away from you. Once you've learned it and put it in the group human subconscious, nobody can take it away from the group human subconscious. And we're all interconnected. And I like the idea that small minds criticize what they don't understand. And also talking about schools using fear motivation, I can honestly attest to this, that I was taught from age 4, I went to school at 4, and through 17, well, from 4 until 11, I was taught by nuns, and they really believed in that old maxim, spare the rod and spoil the child. Beatings were fairly frequent. And then I was taught by priests. Well, the college I went to was run by priests from 11 through 17. And same idea. Punishment was just a whole part of the system. Even being punished, hit with a strap for not being able to repeat back, say, in one case, different phrases and sentences in French, or make a mistake in the sentence, and you got hit twice on the hand with a strap. Did it make me any better or not? I don't know. I survived it. That's all I can tell you. Did it help me to learn any more? I don't think so, because I was motivated to learn anyway. But the bottom line is this, that when we can seek a good way to actually learn and help other people learn and work to their modalities, sight, hearing, touch, all three, then we get better results in the long run. So that's what I've got to say. And we can take part in this. The affirmation, I am an inspirer and discoverer of the richness of life. I am an inspirer and discoverer of the richness of life. And you could remember that when you say this, you're inspiring and enriching your own life, but you're also inspiring and enriching other people's lives. So what do you think of the reading? I'm not, well, I read it. I mean, you can say it if you want, but what do you think of the reading as a whole? What do you think of the ideas behind this? Oliver Wendell Holmes talking about the mind being stretched and that can't return. Holmes saying that when we assert who we are, that we rise above the average, and then we take the whole human race above the average. And that when we learn something new, nobody can take it away. And that when we elevate ourselves, we elevate the whole human race. So, well, that's really about all I've got for today. I will be back tomorrow. And I just quick reminder that Reverend Lisa will be on at 9 o'clock in the morning. She's always very good about saying, hey, and Reverend David will be on at 5 o'clock-ish, which is true. It's ish. I'm a bit early tonight, but there you are then. We got a board meeting at 6 o'clock, so I really wanted to get my reading done a bit early. So with that, I'm just going to say, the light of the all surrounds us, and the power of the all protects us, and the presence of the all watches over us, because everywhere that we are, Spirit is, and all is good, all is well. Until next time, namaste.